If you were to ask a Sony shooter why they went with Sony, you likely hear something along the lines of reliable autofocus, great specs and huge lens selection. Regardless if you're using a Sony full-frame or aps-c camera, the Sony E-mount offers an insane amount of first and third-party lenses, so you can be sure to find something to your liking and budget. Which leads us to this little guy, the Viltrox AF 23mm f1.4 for aps-c cameras, giving us an equivalent focal length of the popular 35mm on full-frame cameras. I've had this lens for a month now, and I'm happy to say that most of my gripes are with the exterior, so let's start with that before going into the image quality and autofocus performance. Both the lens and the lens hood is made out of some kind of metal and got a combined weight of around 300 grams, which feels really high quality, but metal got a tendency to scratch over time, so even though it looks nice now, I generally prefer that kind of durable, plasticky material a lot of other lens makers are using. The lens without the hood is 72mm long, so it makes for a decently compact combo with any of Sony's aps-c cameras, especially considering the large 1.4 aperture. And now to the things that I don't like with this lens. The lens hood is a bit trickier to put on than on my other lenses, no idea why, most likely user error, but once I do, the locking click feels very satisfying. Also, I just now noticed that if you line up the Viltrox logos, it's very easy to get in position. Where Viltrox failed to deliver a satisfying click though was with the aperture ring. Now, I don't mind that it's declicked, I actually prefer it if I have to choose between one or the other, but there's a stopping mechanism when going between f16 and A, which lets you control the aperture from your camera, and that stop is pretty weak, I have to say. This makes it easy to accidentally turn from A to f16, especially when I'm just carrying it around, making me wonder for a second why I'm so horribly underexposed when I'm about to use the camera. Since all my other lenses lack an aperture ring, I come to prefer changing the aperture from the camera anyway, so I might just put a piece of tape or a rubber band on here to prevent this from happening, but it would of course be better if it just required a little bit more force. I should also note that it's not weather sealed, so if you tend to shoot in a lot of wet conditions, the Sigma 23mm f1.4 might be a better option for you. Other than that, there's not a whole lot more to say about the exterior of this lens, except that Viltrox put a USB-C port in the mount of the lens, allowing firmware updates without needing a lens station, which is neat. I'm gonna go wash my car now, so while I'm doing that you can take a look at this reel of pictures I've taken, and afterwards I'm gonna give my thoughts on the image quality. I hope you enjoyed the pictures and were able to get a sense of the image quality. Overall, I'm impressed with the optical performance of this lens, but to little surprise, it's not perfect. Link, you wanna say something to the viewers? I think the center sharpness is quite good, even a bit better than I expected at f1.4, but it's a bit soft. You don't need to stop down much though, even at f1.8 to around 2.8 it gets as sharp as you'd want. The corners are per usual a bit softer, but they sharpen up nicely around f2.8. The vignette is as expected pretty strong at wide open, but mostly gone at f2.8 and near completely gone at f4. Where this lens struggles most optically is with the chromatic aberration and with the autofocus areas in some cases. The chromatic aberration can be pretty noticeable when shooting at larger apertures and got a blue and reddish color to it. It's mostly reduced at f4 and f5.6, so you shouldn't really be able to see it much unless you're actively looking for it. As I was saying, the autofocus areas got their own issues in some scenarios. I think this mostly occurs when shooting in an angle where the background is not parallel to the camera, if that makes sense. It almost looks like motion blur, but as you can see, the stoplight is perfectly sharp in focus. I'd say that this is a bigger issue than vignetting, sharpness and chromatic aberration, since this would be a lot harder, if not impossible, to fix in post. Now compared to this picture where I shot straight towards the subject and the background lines up behind her, I hope I can make some sense with this illustration. Now this is only my theory, so if anyone have an explanation to this, I would love to hear it. And lastly, when it comes to autofocus, I don't really have a lot to say. From my time using this lens with my a6700, I haven't really experienced any issues with the autofocus performance. The only thing I can really think of is that it's not the most quiet lens I've come across, so the clicking noise from the autofocus motors could potentially get picked up from an on-camera microphone. Just take a listen how it compares to the Sony 18-105mm and the Sony 11mm. A big thank you for watching. Please hit the like button if you found this video helpful, and don't hesitate to leave a comment if you want to share your thoughts on the lens or if you have any questions about it. Peace out!